Yeah, Mars is frozen a bit.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening. Running a little bit late than we normally kick off, shall we say, start off from the blocks. But yes, it is the Power Hour running show where we're talking runners, we're talking running. Now, we've had, as those that follow the show, most of the time would know, we have a variety, of guests on the show, diversity as well as inclusivity, which is basically, well, how do they influence the sports? How do we influence the sport of track and field and athletics? Now, the situation that we have is one that where COVID, has created an environment where every sector and every industry has got some challenges. How do we deal with it? What choices do we make? And how do we employ and apply the guidelines that are coming down from, the respective authorities over the matter? And the track and field is no different. Now, track and field has got a culture, and this is something that goes on in track and field. People train in groups. It's a very social sport, and the current circumstances are such that that in itself becomes a challenge. So how are people coping? How are coaches coping? How are athletes coping? How are clubs coping? How is the whole industry coping? Given the nature of a group culture, that's where the teaching and the coaching and the mentoring and the counseling, everything through goes all that in a group culture. Now that there's this situation, how are people coping? How are all those different sectors of the sport coping? Joining me for this show tonight are two gentlemen that are doing a brilliant job, a fantastic job, down in the south of England. And they work in exactly that kind of environment where they work with large groups, a large group of athletes. And their story is worth listening to because, like all of us, it's about working it on the card. How do I deal with this one now? What do I deal with this one now? John Masimba, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How's your day been like, John? You were just telling me, off air, you've had one round of a day there, down to Essex and back. How was that?
Oh, busy, I'm a bit tired, but I'm ready for a conversation with you and just give you as much information as I can give you and Maz can give you, and also to listen to people and see what they say to us as well.
Matt, how has it been?
Day has been good. It's been chilled. I had a day off for a change, so not complaining.
Okay.
Yeah. You gentlemen, when I spoke to you earlier on off air, you sound like a very busy pair, with your group. It's almost like, you're on, you work almost 7 days, you guys. Just track and field. To start off with, I will start with John. How did you get involved with track and field at the club that you are at?
After you, Maz.
Did you get me, John? How did you get involved with track and field at your club, the club where you're engaging in?
I started at Outershots when I was 18 years old, and basically I was an athlete. I ran county level, never really got beyond county level. I did second a few times as a sort of reserve runner. And, that was about the limit. And as I got older, kept on going. I might put a flatliner. I never had a real peak in my career. I never won a gold medal on a podium above county level. So running, and it got to the point where injury, just being an old boy at the back of the crowd, it wasn't very satisfying, because every time you go running, and I was thinking to myself, what do I do now? And then somebody said to me, why don't you go back into coaching? I had done it for a little bit before, and then for the job, I had to leave it to somebody else. And this time now I came into it. Maz was already running the senior sprint group, and I felt a little bit worried about going in to join him. But in fact, he welcomed me very quickly, and it sort of went from there about 5 or 6 years ago. And I think it's a really good partnership. We bounce stuff off each other. Sometimes we disagree about stuff, and we talk it through, and we make it work. And we have meetings at Acosta near us, and we thrash out everything. We talk about progressions, any little issues we have, and we just take it from there. And that's how it rolls along. So basically, I've been running now since I was 84 years old now.
Yeah, it's a common story that you share there, John, about the journey that most coaches take. Usually, the coaches that I have met and have come on the show, they get back into track and field because they've got something else to offer. They want to offer something to the sport because they didn't complete their journey, in some way or other, for one reason or another. And so what you are sharing there is, a common thread in most coaches. That most athletes that have run all the way and spent everything, some don't want to get back in the sport. They go away, retire, and that's it. I'm done with it. Most coaches are those athletes that did not complete their journey, and they come back and they want to give to the younger generation. Would you say that was part of your own inspiration, your own motive there?
Absolutely. The amount of positive feedback and vibes that I got from the younger, I suddenly realized there was a whole world of experience that I really, and I love teaching them. I love them all. They're brilliant. Sometimes they can really with things in life. My wife isn't very well at the moment. Go down to the track, and all these other little things that you have to deal with them, putting the sessions together, running.
I'm not sure. John, hi John. I'm not sure what's going on with your mic, but I'm getting a bit of a rumble there. I will thought we'll try and see how we can resolve that. I'll get to you, Masimba.
Yes.
How did you yourself get involved with Outershot Club?
Oh, with all the shots. So, we're looking to get my son into athletics. I'd been an athlete. I played sport for quite a few years, and I wanted to get my son into athletics. And they said, if you want to bypass the waiting list, come and help out as a coach. And so I went to as a coach for the young age group. Spent a couple of years there, and as my son progressed up, I kind of went with him. When he finally left, I started competing again, and at that stage, I was competing as a veteran. Kind of like John was competing, getting injured, competing, getting injured, and then the coach who was there for coaching the senior group, he left, and everybody just kind of said, "Okay, so what do we do now?" So I said, "I don't mind coaching for a little while we find somebody else." So I was training and coaching at the same time. After a while, I found that didn't quite work very well because it's very hard to coach people who were behind you. They were behind me not because I was faster than them, but they just let me lead off first. That's all it is. I mean, there were kids there who were like past me. And yeah, it got to the stage where it was like, either I'm training or I'm coaching. Given the enjoyment that I'm getting from coaching and the I won't say lack of success. I'm just not seeing a future in my athletic career. And it was like, okay, yeah, I'll switch. I'll do the coaching. And I haven't looked back since. It's been an interesting journey.
You know exactly. Every coach has got a different story for their entry point. Not any one of the stories are the same. Every coach has got a different entry point to coaching. In my interactions, it's usually very, very personal. Personal in that it's their personal circumstances, that have brought them, through into coaching. And that's how rich coaching is, because the starting point is all very different for everyone, and so the different experiences and the different expectations are the ones that make coaching such a rich trade, because everyone is bringing different motivations, different reasons, and different purposes for coming into coaching. And therefore, absolutely, I can absolutely identify with that gentleman. Now, Outershots Club, tell me a little bit about it, for viewers that would not know, where this is, what is the size of the club, what is the recruitment area, where do your athletes come from, basically tell us, what is Outershot, where is it, how do you guys become a club?
John, you want to take that one?
Okay, yeah, the Outershots Parliament District. Stadium, which originally was owned by the army, for the army. We had use of it when they let us. There's a sort of partnership between the local council and the army through a company called who actually run the stadium now. I wouldn't say it was a smooth partnership. Quite often we lose the use of the track on our track night for an army youth football match or something like that. Sometimes short notice, sometimes they give us a bit more notice, but quite often we lose the use of the track quite a few days a year. It would be lovely if we could have our own track where we could train 7 days a week if we want, but we can't. We use this week. The catchment area is Aldershot, Farnham, Fleet, probably about 10 miles radius. It's a good long distance club. I'm sure loads of you have heard about the Outershots Harrier Club as a road running club. They're very successful. Had quite a few Olympic athletes as well. The latest one's Steffi 12. She's Aldershot. We're incredibly proud of people like that. I just wish that we have our facilities a little bit more for us, so that we could develop our athletes to a situation where they can enter the elite world. It's difficult when they're only able 3 times a week. We do other things as well to try and get around that. Hill sessions, obviously, working on the fields and things like that. Obviously, the facility. So, make do with what you got. Make it work for you. A good history overall. It's been going for about 50 years now, maybe even longer. As I say, I've spent all my athletics career there. Quite a few people that I still know and still compete they've been there as long as I've been. And we wouldn't go anywhere else. There's a tremendous loyalty to the name, AFC. Just a few things we'd like to understand what I'm saying to make it even better in terms of facilities and access. That's our big problem.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting space that your club is in. You know, not many clubs have got that kind of space. You know, the background there with structures of the military and the facilities. You know, other clubs would think, wow, this is great. You know, we can go ahead and we have access to all these facilities as it there. But you seem to point out there's also an administration and management issue that comes with it. Masimba, you and Aldershot, how did you get it?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You and Aldershot Club, how did you come together?
Yeah, like I said, it was just trying to get my son into athletics, and I think it was my wife who came across an advert in the paper where they were looking to recruit more athletes, and that was kind of like, that's the way we're going to get into athletics as such. So.
Yeah. Okay, now, gentlemen, tell me about now what you specifically do with your group. What group is it? Are they jumpers? Are they throwers? Are they sprinters? Middle distance? Long distance? What are the dynamics? What are the age groups? You know, who exactly are you working with, and just how huge is this group that you work with?
So it's a very large group. We've got, I think, 40 odd on our group chat, but we can have maybe 26. Well, recently we've had like 26 coming down to the track for training sessions. So we're just in the government guidelines there. Keeps things interesting. We're coaching sprinters, anything from 60 meters up to 400. we believe everybody in that group should be able to run a decent 60 all the way through to the 400. They have their preferences as to what they like to do, and we won't hold that against them. I know some of them are watching now, so they probably got a smile on their face like, yeah. And the age groups, I think our youngest sprinter is 14, and our oldest,
I think mid-60s now.
Age range there. We've got a few age group athletes, some under 20s, seniors, and vets all in there.
Now that's quite a mix, and from a coaching standpoint. Well, before even you get to the technicalities of coaching, just the whole social management. How do you two guys cope with 26 athletes in a group and the 40 in a in a chat group? Just how do you manage them socially?
Right, the different age group. The younger age groups definitely prefer the shorter sprints. It's very convincing that they can even run 300 meters. They're perfectly capable, and they run it really well when they do it. Actually, reminding them that they're quite good enough to do it quite helpful. The older they get, the more mature the athletes, the more autonomous they are. You can give them they will go and do the session, and basically it makes it easier that way, so that you can concentrate more on the ones developing from basic ground zero, the 14, 15, right through to these sort of late teens. They're the ones that can then concentrate on. We tend to work as a team, where Maz will look after the technical side and the shorter sprint side. I tend to look after the side, which naturally is that I'm more looking at more mature athletes. Most of leaving deal with all the young.
Okay.
It's quite difficult because it is such a big group, but funnily enough, it does work. Yeah. There's a social to it as well, and each group there's groups within the group, and you can target one group. They're usually the same age, more or less abilities. So you can I want you to do this many reps of whatever we're doing. More mature ones, obviously, they're capable of doing more, so you can say, I want you to do that. And from that point onwards, you can segregate them, make it work fine, in the workloads, giving them work that you want to do, and letting them do it. And then we can sit back a bit and watch them and pick the bones out of anything that we see.
Yeah. Masimba, there is debate out there, on the efficacy of group coaching versus one-to-one coaching. How do you guys, between you and John, reduce the variance there of whatever benefits or lack of benefits that are there, in group and individual? How do you manage to do that working with a group as large as you have?
So yeah, it's by no means perfect, but we're kind of having to make do with all parts. So the way we try and do it is after we've done our warm up and our readiness part of the session, I'll try and get to every athlete and touch base with every athlete and ask them, what is your focus for today? What are you working on, which you can actually focus on and you can make a difference on, rather than just saying, hey, go out and run and just do your own thing. So in that way, we try and get them to at least focus on one thing, whether it's arm drive, knee lift, whether it's going a little bit quiet down the track or something. There's always something for each one of them to work on. And then we generally have maybe 2 or 3 athletes that we can focus on during a session and give specific feedback as they go by, and we work through with them. Unfortunately, the drawback to that is that yes, we'll give them close to them, as it were, for that session. But then they aren't the focus, as it were, for the next session. We'll only come back to them possibly in 6 weeks' time or 8 weeks' time. But it's still trying to keep in touch with them in the sessions in between to say, okay, what are you working on? Are you still working on, what you were working on last week? Are we moving on a little bit from that? It's not great, but it's what we have to do.
Yeah, yeah. But there is. Thanks for those contributions, John and Masimba. But there is a debate out there also about, and when I say out there, I'm talking within the athletics community. How best, because coaching essentially is something that we do after hours when our target audience are students who only come to the track after they've been to school or they've been to work or they've been to college. They come after hours to deal with that. So you are basically working with a group of individuals or an individual who has spent most of their reserves, their energies, in the greater part of the day, the best part of their day, coming to you. They are probably, not at the best of attentiveness. How do you guys motivate not one, but you motivate a group of 30? How do you manage to do that?
The older ones are usually okay. They're pretty self-motivating. Obviously, we do touch base with them and just to catch up with them and say, how was your day and the like. The younger ones, we encourage them to, as they arrive, let us know, okay, did you have PE today? Because if you had PE today, that's going to have an impact on your performance during this training session. And so we know what to expect from each one of you. And to a large extent, the onus is on them to come to us and tell us, this is what I did. Because the group is so large, we can't be going and to each individual one and say, okay, did you have PE? Did you have PE? What did you do? And what was the intensity? We see that group as almost a metaphor for life. You have to have the self-discipline. If you need to be at training, you'll be at training, and it's up to you to go to your coach and say, okay, this is what has happened during my day. It may affect my performance, it may not. I know some of the younger guys will either have played football maybe the day before, or will have played rugby, had rugby practice, and so they were coming down the track. We're just putting more and more on you, and builds work capacity, builds character. So I'm told.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you bring out there, Masimba, and I'm going to ask John, about this one. Working with young people, young athletes, they have many other physical tasks that they're involved in. Could be multi-sport, actually. They've got their PE lessons at school, then they've got their footy with their mates before they come to the track for training, for track and field training. how do you manage that with young people? How do you exactly manage it, in a group environment? I can see where I can manage it in a one-to-one environment. I don't know how to manage that in a group environment. How do you get along with it, you guys? John?
Some people are doing sports. We've got quite a few who rugby, football as their main event, and because of that, it's always sort of target them. Say, what have you done today? What are you doing tomorrow? One of them recently had a championship format coming up. Session that was probably a bit too demanding because obviously you've got a big match to do, and so you have to sort of modify their. We're doing the warm up. I do because Maz usually runs the warm up if he's there, and I watch the athletes and I sort of walk around, distract them a bit. I just make contact with as many as I can while doing the warm up. See where they are, sound them out, especially the younger ones, because as you say, they have lots of things going on in life. Sometimes we're not very good at handling these. It's just overwhelming with it, or whatever. We do have issues at home, and we have to. Well, the ones who've told us, I think we've got a handle on everybody now. It took a while. Some of them don't actually know what's going on. They come down, they're very quick, and they go out, they train as hard as they can. But you can tell that they're not really with you. They're somewhere else, and so you've got to gain their trust and be their friend, listen to what they're saying without being a teacher. We're the same as they look at us as a teacher, as a teacher today. That authority. We have to.
Unfortunately, John, I think I'm getting whatever bump is in.
So that we can tailor what we want them to do. Yeah, and there are certain ones who are more needy than others. Other ones just roll along. They complain. They just do this.
Oh well, I think John, we're having a few technical issues with John there on his system. Anyway, Masimba.
Yes.
When we come back, I'm going to ask about how you manage. I know this is something that is within your close to your heart. Strength and conditioning in a group environment. How are you getting along with that one? When we come back, John, I'll just get you back on, John. There, I said. Yeah, we dropped you off there. We're going to take a little break, just a few seconds break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you guys how you're managing with the strength and conditioning, because that's a huge part of conditioning for athletic performance. When we come back. Hey, if you just joined us, we are running, and we're talking about the conundrum of working with a large group of athletes under the current circumstances of, the pandemic and the necessary measures that, every industry finds itself dealing with. And track and field is no different. And how are we coping with the challenges? What choices do we have to deal with? And what consequences do we need to be attending to, or working against, for the future of the sport. And the coaches are, helping me with that discussion here. Masimba and John, are from Outershots, and they were working with a pretty large group of 26 plus at any given time, and then they've got 40 plus, within their chat group. Strength and conditioning. It's all very easy. It's all very easy to ask athletes to run around the track. You can possibly easily get 40 athletes to run around the track. You can manage that. But when it comes to strength and conditioning, they're just here. They're not going to be running everywhere. You need some kind of static space for them to do that. Or am I just a dinosaur in my thinking? How are you guys coping? How are you coping with that kind of sport?
So lockdown actually did us a bit of a favor there, in that when lockdown started, we were forced to pivot and just to think, how can we keep our athletes going, keep the fitness up, keep the morale up more than anything else. So we ran a circuit session every day, Monday through to Friday, same time every day, and we just went through various circuits, leg circuits, upper body, lower body, a nice little mixture, and we just went through that. Not all of the athletes turned up for that, which is fine. It was all voluntary and optional. Back at the track, I can't make some of the days there, and so part of the warm-up when John takes it is infused with circuits and that kind of stuff, circuit training, just to keep him kind of going. I would generally take the warm-up when I'm down there, and warm-up has a lot of work capacity stuff built in as well. A lot of the athletes after my warm-up are like, what a tough warm-up, and it's, as I said, it's to build work capacity. Some of the older ones who've been with me for a while, who know their way around a gym, I will program their weight training, their gym sessions, and they are very good at just going and executing. I will meet with them maybe once a month, or as and when they ask me to. We'll go through a program, through that phase of their program, looking at technique and cleans, deadlifts, squats, that they're unsure about, and then I let them back into that. And like I said, they are very good at taking hold of that and running with it.
Yeah. There's one of the questions that parents normally have, Okay, go on, John.
Okay, I was just saying that we did have a group funding exercise about it's been nearly 2 years ago now, and the athletes all put in some money, and then Matt and I put enough to cater for probably 10 athletes at a time. And there's a room in the stadium that we call the VIP. We bought mats and everything, and while we split the session into a normal warm-up, followed by a shorter track session to warm everybody up and get them thoroughly warmed up and felt like they'd actually done some running on the track. And then while we're doing that, one of us will go in there and get weights out and ready. And then half of the whole session is devoted to doing free weights. With storeroom. And at the moment they're renovating the stadium, they put scaffolding up to get freeway. It's severely limited what we can actually achieve with weights, with most of them who don't go to the gym at any other time. What we were trying to do was have everything in one place, so that although they're training maybe twice a week, 3 times a week, they got to for what is out there, and then that would inspire them to want to do more because they could see that they were getting stronger, building or whatever they wanted out there. At the moment, do that with the way things are. It feels like trading water at the moment, or providing your time, waiting for this COVID wave to go over, and then everything goes up, then we can sort of reset everything, know where we are in the yearly cycle of right, what we're going to be ready for the next track season, whatever that is. That's sort of where we are with what so this warm up doing, circuit training that we're doing, full body weight stuff. But it's quite demanding. I do it, and Maz is doing a good job on that. He's killing me. But, yeah, it's what it is and where it is. Hopefully, things will change. We can do everything that we need to do in the future.
Yeah. Well, these are times for these are times for adaptation and huge adaptation. Given the circumstances that we find ourselves, and I'm sure you guys are doing the best you can, as everyone else is trying. We are all learning, new insights, under the circumstances. And there's what Mas said there was true with all elements of track and field. The pandemic has created a situation where we are able to deal with certain areas of the sport that we probably wouldn't have had the time to deal with. So that I think is a positive thing in its way. What I'm intrigued in, and other people would be intrigued with, is it's okay for training. What does it look like you guys come into competition? Surely your athletes, 26 of them plus, are not competing in one league or in one venue at the same time. What happens there? What does it look like? Your juniors, your intermediates, your seniors, your veterans. Where are the two coaches then when it's competition time? How does that look like? How do you manage that? When we come back, that's what I like us to talk about.
Okay.
Yes, competition. Yeah, granted, it's not happening so much of it this time around, and there's a restricted return to competition, and the guidelines are fairly restrictive. Let's not address it within the current pandemic environment rather. How about when pre-COVID? How would you guys address competition? How do you manage your athletes in different leagues and different venues? How do you get along?
Fortunately, most of our athletes compete in the same leagues. The SAL, depending on the day, or the vets obviously have their competitions like usually on a Monday. Not competing in that and having work and whatnot, I generally don't make it to the vets. matches, but certainly we try and make it to the SAL or where the majority of the athletes are actually competing. John, you want to add to that?
Yeah. I'd like to go along and see the results of I think it's great to be there. Sometimes you get somebody who's semi-paralyzed with nerves. They may not have raced before because they're young. I want best experience. You know, they ask questions. I want to be there in case they've got any problems at all and address them. Even if it's only saying, right, here's your numbers, here's the pins. You know, so that there's something less to worry about. Trying to keep it as stress-free until the moment of the race as possible, so that they can form. You were talking about pre-COVID. Just to say that in the last few weeks, AFD have had a couple of internal meetings, and we've had our own sort of bit for the sprinters. And it's great to know that who competed were did very well. They've either got personal best, lifetime bests, especially the younger ones, because they get those naturally anyway as they grow. But even some of the older ones were doing some very respectable times. And the masters as well. A couple of them were ranked in the top. I think one of them was ranked in the top 12, and one ranked in was 9th for the year. I know it's a thin year, but even so, to know that they're still up there doing stuff on the back of only training. So it sort of says that we're doing something right, I think, because they're producing something that's worth doing.
Yeah. One other issue that has come up again and again on this show is the transition of athletes. Transition of athletes from club athletics to university athletics. You know, your seniors, your top end juniors. There'll come a time when that will happen. They must move on and go to college. What are your experiences, gentlemen? And with such a large group, you probably have a lot of that kind of transition. How do you manage? How do you cope with it? How do you prepare them for it? Is there any relationship once they've left the club and they've gone on to uni? How do you look? How do you attend? How do you basically manage that?
So we go, John.
Oh, okay, thank you. It's a massive upheaval all around for them. We sort of launch them off and say, go and find a club within the uni as soon as you can if you want to keep running. Get into it, enjoy it. The ones who have really embraced it, some of them have gone to Loughborough, other ones have gone to Bristol and Bath, all over the place. And they've all joined the internal club. Some of them have thrived, some found it quite difficult, but they've done it because if they didn't do that, they won't do it. And nearly all of the ones who have left us, bar probably 2 or 3, have come back and are training with us right now. So we're very open relationship. Even if they've joined the university scene in terms of athletics, whatever they're doing, they might even join another. They're up north or wherever they are. But we said, whenever you're down here, come down and see us. We're always here for you. We know you. You know us. Welcome home, sort of thing. And it works because they come back. They're training hard. Sometimes they're showing us to do it. Obviously, you've got Loughborough. Got some good coaches there, and some of the stuff they're doing, you sort of take it on board and think, it's a good idea. We can do that. And we try and incorporate it. Our success rate, our return rate has been very good. Yeah, that's why the group's so big. We've got so many university graduates coming back to us. We're a very intelligent club,
Yeah. Okay. Masimba, just before you come in, there's a question here from one of the viewers. I'll just try and show you that. Has it been difficult to keep athletes motivated during COVID, and has fitness levels been affected? What's your experience, gentlemen? This is a trusty joke. she wants to know, what your personal experience with that is. Masimba, we go with you, and then John, you can come in on it.
Seem to have lost you. There we go. Yes, answering that question, yes, it hasn't been difficult. Yes, it has been difficult, just because of everything that has been going on during COVID. But as I said,
I think we're having an issue there with Masimba. John, could you pop in, please? And just
together.
Okay, Masimba, you back?
Yes, I'm back. Tech, hey. Yeah, just to answer that question. To answer the question, it's been hard to keep them motivated over COVID, just because everybody's been away, everybody's been going through something, which is why we had the circuits class kind of going to try and keep everybody together, try and keep morale up. And just to say, hey, we're here for you. We're here for each other. It's not just us as coaches. We're here for the athletes, but for the athletes to know that they can chat to each other, they can contact each other, and nobody has to go through this whole situation on their own. Have fitness levels been affected? Yes, most definitely. And I think it was more prevalent in the athletes, and this is not a dig at them, so please, when I see you on Tuesday, don't give me grief about it. When some of them came back, there was clearly a lack of fitness, but it wasn't great, it wasn't huge. And I think everybody, the running and the circuits are two different kinds of fitness. And so the guys who did the circuits had an easier transition when we got back onto the track. The guys who didn't join us for the circuits, it was a slightly harder transition.
Yeah. Masimba is frozen out. John, would you like to pop in? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the things when people, especially when they came after the complete lockdown, was to depressurize them, if you like, and say, hey, let's just have fun. Let's just try and get fit again. Let's get fit enough to train again. So it didn't really matter in my particular section what level they were at. We were going to start much lower down, with no expectations particularly. I wasn't looking for anything spectacular. Just do the number of reps I've asked you to do, and we'll build it up from there. So trying to, there's no point in pressurizing them, I don't think, and there's no goal. We don't know when we're next to a proper race. And at the time, we didn't have these little meetings we've been doing. We had no idea that we'd be able to do that. So it was a case. And they came back of their own accord as well. As soon as one came back, then a few more came back. They're obviously talking amongst themselves, even though they weren't talking to us, and joined that circuit group that we had, the Zoom group, which was brilliant. And if we do get down again, we will be running the Zoom again, only this time come along. One of the interesting things about that Zoom group was when I asked them, why didn't you come along? You're in your own room, you're outside in the it's no big deal. It lasts 15 minutes. Why don't you do it? All of them, bar one, said I was embarrassed. They're at an age where they feel like people are watching them. And you're not. You're too busy doing it yourself. Nobody's worried about it, but they have this sort of shine, which I found quite surprising, because when they're on the track, the last thing they seem to be very sharp. But into the Zoom, so we're already one level up. But as I say, no pressure to start with, and they build up. Now they're pretty well they're aware that we're back into the winter season, that we've tried to make the transition into winter a bit gradual. There wasn't really much summer season anyway, because they were just too busy to get fit. So there was no point in going looking for fast time. As it was, we were lucky. We had these races and people were performing. It was great to see, you know. As we're transitioning into the winter stuff now, people are almost knowing where they are in the yearly cycle again. They're turning up for every session.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
What can you say?
Masimba keeps popping in and popping back there. You must be having a few tech issues there with him. Listen, you gentlemen have been brilliant. John, you've been fantastic, very generous with sharing your experiences. You know, I don't know how you managed to do it. You know, working with a group as large as you do. You know, you have just competencies nowhere near my street.
Sorry,
you know, it's a thank you to thanks for you to thank you for sharing all that with us and with our and our our viewers. Just to close up, the season has obviously been affected. So what changes have you had to make to your own season? You know, when does it end? When does it start? Is there any recovery period? You know, I hear you talking about winter and summer, but from a technical point of view, what does your season look like now? 2020 and the 2021 season, how is that looking like?
I think because the after the lockdown, the season was so short, the training period was so short anyway, nobody got into the deep sort of fatigue that you'd normally get at the end of a proper racing season. We did pull back a little bit for a few weeks. Now we're starting to trend it back up again as if it was the start of the winter season. With the hope that obviously by spring, by Christmas time, if there are any indoor meetings, which at the moment I don't think, but if there are, we're sort of halfway ready. We did talk about this. Are we going to run an indoor season? Because it's so unreliable, we don't know whether we'll be able to do that or not. We've almost binned the indoor season speciality because you could do all the work and then not be able to actually make anything of it. So basically, we're sticking to a one period periodization. Right. I'm probably going for the spring now, hoping to do the counties and the first of the league match in the early part of next year. So that's where we are with.
Well, yeah. Well, I think it looks different for everyone, and it's going to look different for everyone. Depending on the competition goes. Whatever the competition goes, hey, Masimba is back.
Gotta love tech. Gotta love tech.
Yeah, you know, you gotta love it. Yeah. So we just, you know, whilst you'd gone underground to sort the tech there, the season is looking like. Not the rest of the season is looking like. You know, with all the disruptions, if we may call them that, you know, what it is looking like. Where is it going to be? Does it look like a standard season where you've got general preparation, competition preparation, and your competitions? Oh, what is that looking like?
No, there's
and your squad.
No, it's definitely looking like it's a longer
Just wait. Whilst you are thinking about
Definitely looking like a longer general prep phase.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've come back. I lost you for a second.
Yeah. Right. Whilst you are thinking about that, John, could you think about this question here, because I'm squeezing for time, but there's a question from Martin who's asking here. That's the question there on the screen. How do you set targets for individuals in your group? So, Masimba, when you've done with the season discussion or views, John, would you like to respond to that one first, and then Masimba, you can come in and close on it. Go on, Masimba.
Okay. So season, look at the season. The season is going to be a long one. It's going to be a very different looking one to what we usually have, in that our general prep phase has pretty much started in August. We've just kind of been with competitions and matches all up in there, and nobody quite knowing what we were doing. It was very much a maintenance. Let's just kind of keep people going. In some cases, it was let's build up their fitness again to try and get them going again. Our general prep phase is going. It's not going to be extremely long, because hopefully, if indoors are actually allowed to go ahead, most of our athletes will be competing in those, just to give them a run out and give them something to get them going, because obviously we haven't had an outdoor season. So we'll get an indoor season done, have a break, kick into the outdoor. Hopefully things will down a bit for that to actually happen.
Great. John, how do you set targets for individuals in your group? Martin Demelu wants to know.
Mr. Martin, hello. Yes, everybody has different talents. For some people, actually getting through a season uninjured, what I'm saying there, they've just got to build up their strength and build up their abilities to get through a season without an injury would be good. Other ones, obviously, were much more advanced than that. We're looking for county titles, personal bests, all the usual things that people want. My goal for them personally is obviously that they achieve more than they've ever been able to achieve before, certainly for the younger ones, because they progress in years, so they should progress in their ability. As well.
I think I've lost John there.
So making sure that we give them the best chance. It's not so much about position rankings, because obviously their times are going to come down, get older, and well, not come down, but not get hugely better. Certainly, the position in the rank is vitally important for them, and I think that everybody has these different things. They come and tell you what they want. Everybody says, "I want a personal best." Fine, we'll try and get you that. But it's where you're going to take it from there. Do you want to be the county champion? Do you want to go to Inter? Do you want to take it higher? You've got to work for it. And so a lot of it is motivation as well. Making them want it themselves, giving them the goal. Say, right, this is what you've got to do to get out there and do. And I think a lot of our job, just setting sometimes 150 on the track, is actually getting inside their heads to make them want to do it, actually perform more way with how good they really are.
Masimba, what's your input on that one?
So what we've done in previous years, and I must admit we haven't done it this year yet, is we will usually start off when the season ends, and as we have a break between the season ending and start of our winter training, we usually get a form out to the athletes, asking them what are your goals for this coming season, what were the highlights of the previous one, what were the low points of the last one, and then that kind of sets their goal for that season. And as we go through the season, we then have checkpoints, benchmarks that, like, okay, we've hit milestones, rather. We've hit that milestone. That takes us to, it shows we're on track to get to our targets, barring any injury. So that's one of the ways we've found has been a good motivator. Again, with a large group like that, trying to make sure we get feedback, or rather get those forms back from each athlete, has sometimes been a challenge.
Gentlemen, we could go on for a little while longer, but our time is up. You stay right there, because I think I need to get a few dates out of you. This is nowhere near exhausted talking to you guys. The questions are flying in here, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So here we go. This is what it's going to look like. Let's do this.